We're going to test the translation now to see if everybody is on the right channel to get translation. Can you all hear?
You need to choose the channel on the interpretation so we can test the translation, okay?
Can you all hear me?
Can do, but yeah, but I can't see anyone else.
Just got a technical issue in here. So.
Can you hear me now? It's coming through now. Okay.
No, Cheryl.
Borodar, good morning. Welcome to the community scrutiny on the 11th of March 2021. Do we have apologies, anybody?
Have you had anything from?
Sorry, we missed that. Could you repeat that? Sorry.
Sorry, Hugh, I didn't know whether you heard that, Chair. Have you had an apology from Cheryl Williams?
No, we haven't. We haven't. No, thank you. Thank you.
I'll give her a ring.
Yeah, I'll give Anton a ring as well. I can't see him anywhere.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? No. Okay, we'll move on. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest this morning? Doesn't seem to be any. Urgent matters agreed by the chair. There are none. Narian, everybody's. Thank you. Great. Minutes of the previous meeting held on the 21st of January. So we'll go through them page by page. So starting on page 5. Shit. Does anybody want to shout out if they've got anything they would like to raise? So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Any matters arising from them? Everybody's very quiet. Could I have a...
I'll propose I correct, Chair.
Thank you. And can I have a seconder, please? Rachel up there. Thank you, Rachel. Can I raise your hands, please? Everybody seems to be in favour. Thank you. Great.
Anton is coming to join me. He's actually working outside. So
Okay.
He's coming in to join me. Sorry, he's forgotten.
That was Anton. Right, okay. Agenda item 5. Could I welcome Julian Thompson-Hill, Mark Young and Steve Gadd, please? Who's going to kick off? Julian, I take it. Yeah, thank you, Julian.
Yes, I am. Also, I'd just like to welcome, we got Lisa Atherton here as well, who will be dealing with the welfare elements of the paper. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Mark, as you'll see, the paper is in joint names with myself and Mark. I cover from the property and finance element, and Mark from the community safety element of his portfolio. So I'll start, but I'll be handing over to Mark for the second half of the introduction. I think I just wanted to clarify right at the beginning what this report is and is not about, and what it's not about. This is, I just want to obviously separate this from a number of other areas that we talk about in relation to gypsies and travellers. So this is not to do with the new assessment process. and it's not to do with anything to do with sites. I just want to make that clear. What this deals with is how we're actually looking to improve the process internally and externally for dealing with unauthorized encampments when they arrive, whether that be on our own property or indeed on private property. I'm going to take through the first part of the paper, so I get to bore you all with some of the legalities as well in Gary's absence. So just to give a bit of history, we had a regional approach to this type of situation dating back to 2015. Unfortunately, that's sort of gone into a bit of abeyance over time. And SLT re-looked at this back in September 2019. And you'll see there were 4 particular recommendations that SLT were looking at that time. That was in terms of reviewing the welfare assessment process, separating the welfare process from serving of any legal notice, the fact that recommending that external bailiffs should be used rather than our internal staff to create that degree of separation, and to create a corporate budget to deal with any costs arising from unauthorized encampments. Unfortunately, as with several things, COVID delayed consideration of this. So it was only a little bit earlier this year that, or back end of last year, I think it probably was, that SLT re-looked at this, and as did Cabinet in one of their Cabinet briefing sessions, to look at reviewing the process, and that's really what we're trying to take you through today. Just again, to give a little bit of background, it's contained within section 4.3 to your report. The powers that Denbighshire have come from section 77 of the 1994 Act, and that power is to issue a direction to anybody who's participating in an unauthorized encampment, requiring them to leave and remove any vehicles. If that direction is made, we then can issue a direction under the what's called a section 77 notice, and apply to the magistrates court for an order to require that if that's not complied with. That the time scale on doing that from start to finish, it's not hard and fast rule, but by and large it normally takes somewhere in the region of around about 4 to 7 days, somewhere along those lines, depending on how quickly magistrates issue anything. There's a further complication for us in Wales, resulting again from COVID, in that Welsh Government issued some guidance back at the beginning of the pandemic, which was updated in September. And again, you'll see that within the relevant section in the report. And essentially, it says that local authorities should not evict, relocate, or disperse unauthorized encampments unless there are immediate and substantial risks to public safety and public health arising from continued occupation. And where eviction is considered necessary, an alternative suitable location should be identified. In terms of some of the other Welsh Government guidance that we have to consider, they provide obviously 3 options for us, all of which have to be considered on a case-by-case basis. The first one obviously is to go for go through the relevant legal processes to obtain possession of the site. The second one is to tolerate the occupiers for a short period of time. And path 3 would be to find an alternative site. And it would the recommendation very strongly is that an initial welfare assessment needs to be carried out before any decision on the pathway should be taken out. Also within that guidance, as you'll see there, is the stresses the importance of having a single point of contact. And I think if we're being fair, that probably is something that we would recognise as being a weakness in our current process, in that it involves a lot of different staff members from a lot of different teams having to coordinate. So the recommendation is that we should have a single point of contact who would deal with all aspects relating to GYPSY and traveller encampments. As I say, SLT earlier this year and Cabinet Briefing reviewed the work that had gone on, and we're recommending that an updated process be brought into place, which you'll see in your packs. The Appendix A to your report gives the flow chart for how we would react in terms of an unauthorised encampment on our own land. And Appendix B is a slightly more streamlined one in relation to how we react for an encampment on privately owned property. In terms of the recommendations that were also made, it was agreed that we should take forward the single point of contact, which is option B, for a number of highly practical reasons. And you'll see the sort of role and job description contained within your pack. I won't take you there in great detail, but essentially the intention would be to have one person in overall control of all our activities relating to GYPSY and travellers. And that would be cited within Liz Greaves' service going forward. But until then, Steve, who's had the responsibility up until now, will continue to retain responsibility for that until a new post were created and bedded in. So I think that's probably all that I wanted to say at this point. I'll hand over to Mark now, because he was going to go through and take you through some of the community safety and community elements contained in the report and some of the detail on the process and flow charts.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I'll just talk through, obviously I haven't got a huge amount to say compared to Julian, but I think it's important that we understand the difference if the encampment is on council land or non-council land. But I think it's really helpful that the graph shows both, so we're all clear, officers are clear and members are clear on the process. So that's been really helpful and good work. So if you go to Apex A, I'll just take you through the non-Denbighshire land graph. So if GYPSY travellers are identified on an authorised encampment site and it's clear that it isn't council land, an email or communication will be sent to the landowners asking them to secure site and the gateway team. This then passes to the intervention team, and we then have a welfare visit will be allocated, and this is a 2-person visit. The intervention team will visit the site hopefully within 24 hours and complete the pro forma, which needs to be agreed still. And then if there is any safeguarding concerns identified, that will then pass through to the referral to the SPOA, and then a referral to Gateway. And if there isn't one, that goes to the visiting officer, who will crucially, and this is important, update the Gateway team. And we have regular checks, and we keep the site under review. And if there is any issues on this site, obviously the police would contact me as lead member of community safety. This happens across the authority 24/7, so that process does happen, but it's good to have it mapped out, and that's really all from me. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Sorry, Chair. One thing I forgot to mention, which you'll see on Appendix A in terms of the flow chart, it's also on Appendix B as well, is that part of the proposal is the creation of a strategic group of senior officers and members who would be involved very early in any process, and would be the group that would determine whether an order would be issued or not, depending on the individual circumstances and the feedback. Sorry, I neglected to say that earlier.
Thank you, Julian, and thank you, Mark. Paul, do you want to add to that? Sorry, Steve Gard, sorry.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Bore pawb. Yeah, just a few things. As usual, Julian and Mark have covered most things. I'd just like to thank everyone. This, there's been a huge piece of work, really bringing everything together. A lot of I'm going to stop my video. I'm getting a bit of feedback. Sorry. Yeah. So it's been a cross service. So obviously we've got Lisa from Community Support Services there. Tom on the line, Tom Booty from Property, which obviously is under me, and that's why I'm involved. But Tony Service, Michael Benyon, been involved, Emily's team on the involvement of police and the roles, etc. Gary, obviously, with the legal advice. I'd like to also thank Howis Lebon, who works with Alan. She did a huge amount of work in collating all this information and bringing it all together. So I'd just like to thank everyone. It sort of reflects the cross-service involvement and need to deal with any of these issues. It really is cross-service, and we need to work together, which again is one of the reasons for that single point of access or single point of contact, so that everyone, officers and members, know who to contact when needed, of when to get that information. The other thing, I think the other thing just to stress is the importance of the new process is really to get that decision making clear, and to allow those making the decisions, which is the strategic group, all the information in one place so that they can make that decision clearly and quickly. And that's the sort of where we wanted to get to. And I believe that with the post and the process, we're in that position. I'd also just, the final thing really is just to mention, I did put in about the regional stuff in the report. I think that might be something that will develop over time, and that the post might want to explore once it's been set up. That post might want to explore some of the regional stuff, because obviously, although it is also cross county, as in cross services within the county council, a lot of these issues are also regional. If an encampment is in Denbighshire, it's likely to move on to Conway, and it's likely to impact. So we need to start treating it a bit more on a regional basis, I think, and that's what this post will help deliver, because we'll have the resources to help drive some of that forward, which is the reason why some of the regional stuff fell down in the past, I believe. So I'll leave it there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Lisa, do you want to come in, or Tom, or anybody else? Or everybody happy with what's been said? It's been a lot of detail there, really.
Yeah, I'm nothing more to add from myself.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Lisa, yeah, fire away, Lisa, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Lisa, do you want to turn your camera off, because we're losing you in and out, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Is that any better?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, from the welfare perspective, I think it's important, that somebody with the expertise is obviously doing that assessment, and my service would have those expertise.
Thanks.
But I think, like Steve was saying about the communication across all the agencies and departments involved, I think that's really crucial.
Oh, I can't hear her.
Oh.
I don't know if it's just me.
Can anybody else hear me?
We can hear this end. Sorry, could you just repeat that? Sorry, Lisa.
My service role would be around the welfare perspective of undertaking the visits. And I just wanted to echo what Steve was saying in terms of the communication across all the different agencies and departments involved is obviously going to be crucial. And having that single point of access of a person involved would be really beneficial.
Thank you, Lisa. Members, we'll start off. I've got a few speakers. The questions. Graham Timms, please.
Mr. Cadeirydd. Just thanks for the report, and seems like it's going to be an improvement if it goes through. One thing that I was just wondering was, what is the extent of incidents on DCC and non-DCC land? That's my only question, Chair.
Who'd like to take that? Steve, you've probably got the answer, have you?
Yeah, in the appendix on Appendix F, which is the original SLT, gives you some idea of let me have a look, see what page it's on, sorry. Scrolling through.
"45."
There you go. Thank you very much. Someone's quicker at scrolling. Yeah, there you go. 45. That table there in the bottom left-hand corner, that gives some idea over recent events, over recent times of sort of the average, which, you know, I think it doesn't look that much, but obviously an event can be a very disruptive event for a particular community. So it's not downplaying the importance of these events, but you know, they are infrequent. And I think possibly the thing to point out there as well, these are the ones on our land, by the way. We don't have full stats for those off our land because we're not necessarily told about them all. So, you know, if it's a brief couple of nights, we might not be told about if there is one. And that would be one thing that the post would also hopefully be able to bring together, because there'll be more in touch with the community, I suppose. Let me just zoom in. Does it have? There you go. Sorry. Oh yeah, it has got non-DCC land on as well. I think the important thing there is that nights issue, which that nights is the full nights. So the average per stay, you can see, is quite short. You know, you're talking sort of 3, 4, 5 nights per stay. Now, obviously, that impacted by our work with the people who have encamped and asking them to move on. We liaise with them. Generally, they don't want to stay for that long. And that's the problem really with issuing this 77 notice. That by the time we actually get to the point where we legally are allowed to encampment has tended to move on by then anyway. So, but you know, it's a symbolic thing and it can push them on a bit, but there is a limit to that. So yeah, I think we have to report these stats to Welsh Government as well.
Thank you. Graham, do you want to come back?
Just to say, Chair, that I apologise for asking a question where the answer was in the paper. I shan't do it again.
It was buried in Appendix F, Graham, so we'll let you off.
Can I just follow on?
I took an A.
Can I follow on from Graham's question in how will this tie in with enforcement with planning regulations? We see more illegal caravans and people living illegal in the county popping up. How will the both tie in? I'm sure there is a place for the both in this section somewhere.
Well, I know Graham's on the line, who might want to just touch on the enforcement issue of planning regs, but this post is for specifically to deal with those temporary encampments of travellers, not for not for, you know, people putting the caravan in their field, for instance, and living on that caravan. That's Emlyn service and planning regulations, I believe. Graham, do you want to?
Yeah, Steve. No, thank you. Bradar, Pau. Morning all. No, Steve's exactly right. I mean, this paper is specifically about temporary arrangements, unauthorised temporary encampments. What you're touching on there, Chair, is, as Steve has said, where somebody, be they gypsy traveller community or any other community, place a caravan permanently on land and seeking that to be their permanent home. And that's a very different thing, not covered at all by this report, but dealt with under Emlyn's planning enforcement regime, as that would be a material change of use of the land that would require planning permission. And if it hasn't got planning permission, it's a breach of planning permission and therefore would be enforced through the planning legislation. So I think you need to make a separation between that scenario, someone placing a caravan on the land to be their permanent home, and this scenario around temporary and authorised encampments of the gypsy and traveller community. Thank you.
Chair, can I come in on that quickly, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you raise a valid point, and if the support for the new Gypsy Travel Liaison Officer, I would hope that that person also engages with the Gypsy and Travellers on all sorts of sites. And again, I think that role can put us in a better position as an authority. So I think the new role could touch on that, although it is separate to this report. I would hope that that role would pick up that issue also. So we've got the data, we know where we are, and we've got engagement with our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I was just concerned over Martin Holland's ward, where he's having a lot of problems up there, as we know. Next speaker is question is from Mervyn Parry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've just got three questions. Have we had many instances in Denbighshire and North Wales with these encampments during COVID, and how has COVID affected us dealing with that? The officer role, if we go in encampments, will this officer be assigned to the work? Because
We're losing you. Can you turn your camera off? We're losing you, sorry.
Sorry. Can you hear me better now?
Yep.
Yeah, just quickly, I'll go back onto that again. Just quickly, have we had many, during COVID, have we had many encampments in Denbighshire and North Wales, and how has COVID affected how we dealt with that encampment? The new officer role, if we don't have any GYPSY encampments, obviously there's a cost with this officer. Will there be other work that will be assigned to the officer? And on non-DCC and possibly on DCC land, with GYPSY encampments, will we be giving them some, helping them with protection as well before the time that they're in, so that they're not intimidated by local residents for the time that they're actually on that temporary site? Thank you.
Who's going to take that?
Sorry, I've lost my cursor then. Do you want me to take it first, and then possibly Tom might be better on some of them? Just on the numbers, I'd like to ask Tom to come in when I finish, because I think I can remember 3 in Denbighshire during this time. There was 2 on our land and 1 that wasn't on our land. However, I'm sure Tom, there might be some brief ones that Tom might be aware of as well. So about 3. I think it has impacted COVID. Obviously, it feels a bit like the numbers are down for one thing, and that's probably because of the travel restrictions generally. But that's sort of until we get to the year end and we see the stats, I suppose that's more of a anecdotal feeling. I think the more important thing is this, it's in the report, but the actual guidance has changed. Now the legislation hasn't changed, which is important, but the guidance has changed. And that's on at the very bottom of 4.3, section 4.3, where it just states what the COVID-19 pandemic guidance for those supporting Gypsy and traveller communities, COVID-19. And I just got those 2 points there, that the guidance says that local authorities should not evict, relocate or disperse unauthorised encampments unless there are immediate substantial risks to public safety and public health. Well, that's a little bit vague, but it does raise the bar slightly for gathering evidence around issuing those notices. And importantly, there's that second element that we shouldn't really be issuing those notices if there is not another suitable site for them to go to. The feeling around that is probably from Welsh Government is very much around containing the virus, not wanting people to move around. And those are the 2 sort of direct impacts of COVID. There is a cost to the post. It's very much that this post isn't just for reacting to those encampments. The point of the post is to build resilience both within the communities, within the council, and within the community of Gypsy and travellers themselves, and to work with those 3 sort of stakeholders and the regional stakeholders to allow us to deal with them better, both from a welfare point of view, as noted in the report, which is important legally and morally that we deal with those issues, but also from a community point of view, from Denbighshire residents' point of view. That engagement will go on throughout the year. That, for example, instead of, an example would be sort of putting barriers up on some car parks, for example. Well, sometimes that's only shown up when the encampments actually happen, whereas actually a post that has the time to actually go around and sort of look at the resilience of some of these sites, that would be helpful. Engaging with communities in areas that are popular sites to see what those problems are before they happen, and try and see if we can put some mitigation in. It's those sorts of things that the post will be doing, as well as all the legislative stuff and keeping these processes up to date. So it's sort of record keeping, making sure that all the new legislation is taken into account, revising the process as and when required. It's all that work that will be done, as well as the more nice to haves, which is around that regional work I mentioned earlier. So hopefully actually building stronger connections in the region. Tom, have you got anything to add on the numbers or anything?
Yeah, apologies, I will keep my video off because my connection's not great. But yes, we had two encampments on council land last year. One was at the Fourth Lass Estate in Drill, and one was at the car park, public car park in Prestatyn. Steve has mentioned on neither of those occasions did we serve a Section 77 notice in line with the Welsh Government guidance. So we didn't serve notice. We liaised regularly with the travellers on those encampments, and I know Lisa did a great job there in keeping in touch with them and regularly communicating with them, and they moved on of their own accord.
Thank you, Tom. Mervyn, are you happy with the response you've had?
Yep, that's fine. Yeah, I would just ask you the last one on the protection. Do we offer some protection through this service as well for the gypsies while they're actually encamped on there, in case there's any local vigilantes or whatever that you might get towards the gypsies when they park?
We always in property, we liaise with the North Wales Police. We let them know what we're aware of and when we're doing visits. So we always have that open communication with the police about when we have an unauthorised encampment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Next question from Rachel Flynn, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, my question was, I think this report is quite a firm and robust way of dealing with unauthorised encampments. One of my questions is...
Sorry, Rachel, we're losing you. Sorry, do you want to turn your camera off?
There's part of it that feels slightly hostile to me.
We're losing you, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me okay? What part did you get up to?
None of it.
Just start again.
Heard the first sentence, I think, Rachel. That was about it. Yeah.
Okay, I apologise. Sorry. Yeah. So my question was, I'm just saying, I think it's firm and robust, the report. I just wonder whether the approach may be slightly hostile. Some of the issues concerned me a little bit was regarding how intrusive the process might be to gypsy and travellers. Obviously, as in the contrary side of things, you've got their rights and things like that, if they were on an allocated piece of land, but obviously this is an unauthorized piece of land. I'm just wondering the difference between how we deal with things now as in regards to welfare, and how this report plans that we do things differently in the future with regards to safety of the children and the adult safety. If you could just elaborate. And also the last part was just to ask how much the council have incurred cost-wise regards to illegal encampments to date, please.
Steve, do you want to point us in the right direction here?
Yeah, shall I just answer the last one because it's fairly straightforward, and then I'll pass to Lisa. I think I'm hopefully not putting anything on Lisa there. Hopefully she'll be able to talk about the welfare visits and things and the checks. Yeah, from a cost point of view, it's one of those things that actually the indirect cost is quite significant. So the time, so for example, the senior officer time, the middle manager's time, there is a lot of time spent on this when they happen. Now, most of the cost is contained within existing resources, but that doesn't mean that it's not a pressure on services. What we've set up is a central code with a a nominal budget of about 20 grand a year. Now that is to allow service to react for genuinely additional cash costs. So for example, those would be hiring of toilets, so that the service doesn't have to think, because there'll be an officer on site, so that they don't have to worry about whether there's budget back in for the service itself. We've set up a central code, so for additional costs we can record it, and it just means that we can also respond to FOIs, etc., a bit clearly, because it's all in one code instead of split over everywhere else. However, that and that is quite minimal, to be honest. A toilet block for a week is £500, for example, something like that. And that's the sort of level we're talking about. But officer time, it's actually quite significant, and that's why this post is, yes, it's additional post, but what it's doing is freeing up everyone else to actually get on with their day job. And this work at the moment is sort of being done with the goodwill of everyone, outside of everyone's job descriptions. Everyone's doing it. This post is to have that specific resource to actually undertake those duties, which will allow everyone else to concentrate on their main duties. So it's a difficult one to answer on that non-cash impact, because it is about time and things, and what actually they could have been doing if they went. So for example, street scene, what could have they been doing if they went sorting out all the bins for the encampment site? They could have been fixing some issues that members have elsewhere. So it's that missed opportunity, it's that opportunity cost really that's the main thing, rather than the direct impact. There might be some additional specific cost with a very a site that has become troublesome or is particularly have issues with, but generally those are the sorts of costs that we have. I'll pass over to Lisa really on the if that's okay, Lisa.
Hi, yes, that's fine. In terms of the welfare visits, they're in line with the Social Services and Wellbeing Wales Act in terms of them being vulnerable and offering any sort of care and support that they may need, completely voluntary, obviously, unless there's any safeguarding concerns identified. So we've had 3 encampments in the last 12 months since I've certainly been involved. And those visits have been undertaken purely on a welfare basis, non-intrusive support. They've been asked, the support that they wish to receive, very much led on what matters to them in line with the legislation. And it's been received very well, in fact. They've been, any gypsies and travellers that we've had in the last 3 encampments have been very open to the welfare supports that we've offered, which has included things like support to get in to an emergency dentist. We've provided some PPE so that they're not vulnerable within the community within COVID, and also sanitary protection for women and children travellers. So it's a very non-intrusive, very much led in the terms of what matters to them in line with the legislation. I hope that answers the question, but happy to answer more if need be.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, Chair, can I come in quickly, please?
Can I just thank Steve and Lisa for that information? It's very interesting, really. Mark?
Yeah, no, and thank you for the question, Richard. Really important, and I think the process being mapped out like this, it's not about just the visits, it's also making sure that the new group we're setting up has all the information when it meets. So when this has happened in the past and we've all got together very late on a Friday or Saturday night, and sometimes it's out of hours, which is fine, we haven't always had the information and who we should contact. So now it's clear, and if we do have this new role, that person will have the skills, will have the knowledge, and we all know who should we contact. So I think that puts us in a better place to keeping everyone safe in our community, the visitors and our community. So thanks for the question, and I think this process definitely makes it better. Thank you.
Chair, can I just come back on that? Sorry.
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah, what it was is I just want to know what the impact will be to when we actually have transient site, so that obviously the travellers are then moved onto those sites. How will that impact on the role of the liaison officer? Will they still, obviously, you know, they'll still be doing everything that they would have been done if they were illegal encampments?
Who's taking that one?
It's
Graham?
important for me as lead member that the whole
Sorry,
process.
who's shouting to come in? Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Liz, yeah, thank you, Liz, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi there. Just to pick up on that, the reason we thought at SLT that the post would sit best in community housing is that when we have our own gypsy and traveller sites, then community housing will be responsible for them. So it was felt that this role, with the emphasis on positive engagement with gypsies and travellers, would be best working with them with regard to any official sites and unofficial encampments, so that it would be part of the whole engagement spectrum that this role delivers. Does that answer your question, Rachel?
Yes, thank you, Liz. That's brilliant.
Thank you, Liz. Graham Bowes, you'd like to come in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just an important point of clarification there. I'm not necessarily correcting Liz, but Liz said when we have our own transit site. There's a couple of things to say on that first. We've got a workshop on Monday, council briefing, when we're going to be talking to you about where we're up to on looking at the need assessments for gypsy, permanent need assessment for gypsy and traveller accommodation. That's both residential and transit. And the clear position is we're going to have to carry out a new assessment. So at this moment in time, it would be premature to say that we needed anything because we haven't carried out an up-to-date assessment. You might want to make some assumptions around need, etc., but we must rely on the new assessment. And we haven't done that assessment yet. So we won't be talking about when we provide transit accommodation or residential accommodation. It's about, at the moment, if we need to provide it, because that if is very much reliant on the new assessment they'll be carrying out. And there'll be more on that on Monday. So a little bit of a plug for Monday's cabinet briefing. If you're interested in that, there's a presentation by Mark as lead member, the leader, myself and Gary Williams, Emlyn, and a few other officers as well will be involved in that. So just a slight correction. It's probably if as opposed to when. Thank you, Chair.
Julian Thompson-Hill wants to come in.
Yeah, it was also just to add, Chair, just for clarification in terms of response to Rachel's question. This is also part of the reason why we want to have a clear separation between the welfare elements of the work that we do on these sites, as and when they occur, from any potential legal action that we may take, which is why we want, you know, to have them being done through extra. If we decide that we have to go down the legal enforcement route, that we would use external bailiff support rather than Denbighshire staff. So there's that clear separation between what we're providing in terms of what Lisa's team would be offering in terms of support, and if we have to use I suppose that's the carrot, and if we have to use the stick for whatever reason, that would be dealt with totally separately.
Chair, can I just have a point of clarity? Can you hear me, Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Moon.
Graham mentioned that this was being brought to cabinet briefing. Members and members.
It's council briefing, Chair.
Okay.
Sorry, yep.
Graham said cabinet briefing. Sorry, council briefing. That's okay.
Correction. Sorry, on Monday it's council briefing, council-wide briefing. Sorry if I said cabinet. Thank you, Mervyn. Thank you, Julian.
Just
Thank you.
Just add to this just very quickly, Chair.
Yeah.
So I think so. Liz comments and Graham's, it's all relevant, but I think this process and the role we're talking about is the right approach, but it's flexible. So it puts us, whichever way we have to go in the future, this puts us in a better position as an authority.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, everybody. Any more questions from in and outside the group? No,
no,
all quiet. Great. I'll hand over to Graham Timms just to sum up on the recommendations. Thank you, Graham.
Thanks, Chair. The recommendation is that Scrutiny considers and discusses the recent developments and decisions relating to the way the Council responds to unofficial encampments by GYPSY and travellers. That's the recommendation, Chair, and I'll propose it.
Graham's proposed. Do you have a seconder?
Yeah, second.
Yeah, Councillor Parry. All in favour? Show their hands. Everybody's in favour. Thank you very much. Could I thank everybody who's been involved in putting this document together? There's a lot of work, and we much appreciate it. Thank you very much. So we'll just move on to the next agenda item, which is the Scrutiny work programme. Rhian, gai handio ti drosodd I ti?
Can we hand over to you, Rhian, when you're ready? Thank you for that. This is the usual Scrutiny work programme in front of you, and the one for the next meeting is in Appendix 1 on page 55 of the pack here. You've got 3 items down for the next meeting. One is to do with the waste and recycling service remodelling. I have had confirmation that that is ready to come to you, so it will definitely be with you on that day. There are another 2 items to do with flood management responsibilities in relation to the rail cut and Prestatyn gutter, and the investigation report on the February 2020 floods. I have inquired again whether these will be coming to you in May, but I haven't had official confirmation yet. I hope they will be ready and that NRW will be here as well, but I will press for a response to that. There's a question from Peter Scott.
Thank you. I hope to stay on. I've had a report, and I don't know, it's probably spurious from somebody, that they were supposed to be discussing this today. I've got Community Scrutiny Committee information, 11th of March, contents, the pages 2 to 51, natural flood management in Denbighshire, with Brian Joe. I was expecting this today, although when I've looked at my agenda, obviously I've seen what we have discussed. So I'm just wondering where this Community Scrutiny Committee report has come from. It says March 2021.
Yeah, I'll explain that to you. That information I sent you the other day is the information brief, which contains all the information reports you've asked for. They're not for the discussion at this meeting. If you look at your forward work programme, towards the very end, there is a section there called information reports. It's one of those reports, that one. That actually has come out of a request you made following the meeting in December, when NRW were with us, and they Wayne Hope mentioned that I think they've secured £1 million grant funding for some work to look at the flood management, I think in the River Clwyd area.
That's right.
That's what that report is about. It's giving you the information about what that study will look into. It's quite a detailed report, that one. I haven't read every word of it, but if there is anything you want to raise after you've been through that, and anything you want to bring back to scrutiny later, you can ask for that to be done via the proposal form.
Okay, thank you, Rhian. I was on the wrong page. Never mind. Okay. That's something for Mark, for you as well, Mark, to look at for the 16th. Sorry to interrupt, but okay.
Okay, yeah, I've talked before then. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Right.
Today's meeting, so you were supposed to get a report on the buildings following council buildings following COVID. You did have a report 6 months ago, and it was planned to have an update today, but because the restrictions are still in place, they don't foresee that anything will change until early in the summer with regards to that. So that item, with the chair's permission, has been moved on to a summer meeting, I think in July. The chairs and vice chairs group, in their last meeting, they asked you to consider the report that you've had before you today on gypsies and travellers, and that's where that item has come from. That group will be meeting again this afternoon. If you have got any requests to put before them, if you could fill in the form and send it to me before 1 o'clock, I can ask them to have a look at it today. Or if anything comes up during the next few weeks, fill it in as soon as possible and send it to me, and then they'll consider your request at the next meeting. You can do that online. The form has been sent to everybody. Appendix 3 is the Cabinet's forward work programme for you to see what they're considering over the next few months, in case there are any items there that you'd like to bring to your meeting. And in Appendix 4 is the update on the last meeting. That's all we have on the work programme, apart from the 4 information items which I mentioned previously, which were sent out on Monday. There are 3 reports, quite hefty reports. That's why the pack is so thick, but it's information that you requested.
Can I just go in?
Could I just ask where are we in terms of the task and finish group to look at NRW and Welsh Water? Where are we with that? Yes, we're hoping that that group will first meet on the 19th of April. We're getting appointments from the different mags at the moment. I think 1 or 2 are to be appointed again. NRW have appointed, Welsh Water have, and the farming unions have appointed, and I think that's it. But it is progressing, and we should be able to meet in April. Ruthin and Denbigh have chosen their people. Prestatyn have, and Rhyl. Elwy haven't met yet. And the Dee Valley have met the other day. There is a nomination to come to be confirmed from them. Any further questions with regards to that, or is everybody happy?
Elwy Mag is the 25th of March, Hugh, so we will select someone for that, for the task and finish group on that day.
Right.
Hopefully me. Never mind.
Get canvassing. Okay.
Get me in early.
Yeah, so just for clarification, it cannot be a cabinet member because it's a scrutiny group. Preferably, they should sit on scrutiny as well, but definitely not a cabinet member.
Great. Okay. Diolch, Rhian. Moving on to agenda item number 7, feedback from committee representatives. I don't think we've got any as yet, have we? No feedback for anybody? No, everybody's quiet. So in that case, can I just thank all the staff put this meeting together today, translator, and thank you all for a brief and thorough meeting. And we'll bring the meeting to an end. Close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Chair, I had something to ask.
Sorry.
So it's just about the education. What did we call it? It was when we were going around with Karen Evans around to all the different schools. Obviously, it came to a halt with COVID. So we had that hasn't been completed. Any news?
Sorry, is this on the agenda item?
Yeah, the education committee that was.
I'm lost at the moment. Where, can you give me the page? What we're looking at here?
No, I'm just asking in general, Chair, about the committee. It just sort of came to a halt. I don't know if Rhian knows anything about it.
I'm sorry, Rachel. If it's not on the committee papers, we can't discuss it. Sorry. If you want to take it up with Rhian outside the meeting, that'll be great.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you very much. Okay, thanks. Close the meeting. Thank you.